some countries have interest in whatever is going on in the country. And let us be realistic. Whatever is happening in Nigeria, there are countries, world powers, that have interest. So sometimes you want to procure arms, and which I also know. I don't want to be too detailed, but I know that sometimes you want to buy weapons, and from, let's say, I'll give an example, let's say you want to buy a weapon from Germany. And because Germany is a member of NATO, sometimes they are forced not to sell certain weapons to Nigeria. This I know. I know when I was a training officer on one of our flagships, I don't know whether it's still a flagship now, NNS Aradu, I know we carry automatic missiles, which is a German, program. And we have the Albatros, their speedy systems, from Italy and so on. I know subsequently, when I was a training officer, it was difficult for Nigeria to actually refit that ship to make those systems to work. That's because sometimes they will say, because of human rights issues or any excuses, that Nigeria should not be, allowed to have such weapons. So it can be difficult in that sense. And I know also when I was, in France as the Deputy Defense Attaché in charge of, weapons, what I do mostly is to ensure that any weapons we buy, I facilitate it. And I was running about 8 countries, so I know I've gone to Italy with I don't know whether I should mention the Minister of Defense then, that's Laje Kwankwaso, General Dambasa. I've taken them, we go around, shopping for these things. And I think it depends on our diplomatic, desks. Okay. You can still get the weapons. I remember we went to Fincantieri in Italy, and they were willing to do what we wanted. So it depends on your diplomatic moves and maneuvers. I know that I've taken some naval chiefs because I was running the state of Israel. And I know that I've taken people there, I spent like 10 days with them, we go around, they allow us to see everything, and they're ready to sell to us. I won't go into details, but I know the highest level of government in Israel met, and I sat there with the chief of naval staff, and they approved the sales of ships to us. So it depends on your diplomatic maneuver. It depends on who is your defense attaché, what job is it doing there. I was able to make friends with the Israelis, and anything we need, they were ready to give us. The only clause they gave us, I remember when we were supposed to buy the SAR-4, that's the class of that ship, which is a very potent warship. The only clause they gave us then, I can say it because it's already more than 10 years, okay? That they will not sell us the Harpoon missile that is actually on board that ship at that time. Because the Harpoon missile is an American-made missile, and they have clause not to. So, and they also told us that even though they won't sell the Harpoon missiles to us, we should name any missiles that we are used to in Nigeria, and they will put it there for us. Countries are willing to sell. It depends on the government. It depends on your diplomatic mission. We have Minister of Foreign Affairs. We have ambassadors. We have defense attachés. They have to get to work. You can go behind the line and get what you want. People are willing to sell to make money. So aside from those embargo issues, and I think maybe what the National Security Advisor must also be talking about, that I know, is that there's a lot of bureaucracy. If money is released, who actually have the authority to incur expenditure? It's not defined, it's not well defined. Everybody seems to have access to that money.
And it shouldn't be.
But this is Nigeria. So who has the authority to incur that expenditure?
Commander, integrated digital technology has been said to be crucial to combat Nigeria's insecurity challenge. And recently too, The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, also laid credence to that and saying the federal government is doing everything possible to go towards this direction. Are they walking the talk?
No.
That's my question.
No.
And what should they do, or what should the nation do if we actually believe in integrated digital technology as a means to solving Nigeria's security problem? What should they do? Yeah, we have agreed they are not walking the talk. How should they go about it?
You know what? The word integrated means integrated. It means that because I have the BVN, the Defense Intelligence Agency should have access to everything that is me. The National Intelligence Agency should have access to the same information. The Department of State should have. The SIB, the CIB, the Police Intelligence should have. That is what you're talking about, integration.
Yeah, sure.
The banks should have. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Finance, the CBN should have. That's why people are buying arms and bringing it in. Because there's no integration. If I apply to buy something from, let's say, Turkey, I have to go through I have to fill the Form A and all those stuff to get CBN something. Immediately, my name goes round. The NIA, for example, the DIA, the SSS, you say, no, this guy is under our watch list. You shouldn't give him access to foreign currency. So it's because there's no integration. Because war against terror or national security is not about Army, Navy, Air Force. No. When you look at the JIB, the Joint Intelligence Board, go and look at the composition of JIB. Go and look at the composition of ICC, Intelligence Community Committee. It's the total system that are there. And if you're a member of JIB, you should be in the integration system. If you're a member of ICC, you should be integrated to that key so that everybody is seeing the same picture. I trained in Israel, my advanced national security program. And I know, because I operate in their warship, I know that whatever the commanding officer of a SAR-4 or a patrol boat is saying as enemy target or individuals or anybody of interest, the fighter jet squadron are seeing the exact picture. The commander of the South Battalion that are taking care of the Palestinian is seeing the same picture. The Northern Command is seeing the same picture. They take care of the Hezbollahs and the Syrians and so on. They are all seeing exactly the same picture. They are integrated into the net. So we are joking here.
In terms of kinetics. Let me just ask this question because we have something to show. Let's look at the recent story. You should know better than us. Let's throw more light on Mamu. I mean, what's the real situation? He became very important to DSS after he was arrested in Egypt. Was he not living in Nigeria? Don't we know that he was negotiating with people on behalf of terrorists who kidnap people? Has he been the only person in Nigeria? We have some negotiators in the past. Nothing has happened to them. They walk around the street. I mean, what is this case of Mamu throwing up?
It's more political. And I don't want to discuss politics. It's political, okay? And it's also an emerging cases. So I think we should allow the DSS to do their job. They have their reasons for doing what they're doing, and we cannot query them.
Okay.
I think they facilitated the arrest, and they know exactly why they did.
Okay.
So since it's a case that is still being handled by the Department of State, I will not want us to do like a media trial and to start speculating.
In summary, it's a cheering one, at least for now.
Yeah, I told you earlier that for me, that's a very good sign. You know, I talk about body language a lot. You know, when I see things and I say, okay, yeah, it seems we are getting serious. I've also in the past, criticized the issue of negotiation in the past. I'm very critical about it because I studied negotiation. And when I saw what was going on, I knew something like this will happen. People are going to enrich themselves. People are going to do, you can see what they are finding out. Negotiation is done when you are dealing government to government issue, but when you're doing it with non-governmental organization, and an individual who is not in government is also going to negotiate. And the federal government of this country, they are looking at them. So that is what you get. You get what you get. They know that this will happen. The guy was enriching himself. And now they've decided to clamp down on him. So let us allow the DSS to do their job.
Okay. Yeah. Now, still talking about fighting insecurity and deploying technology. We know that at some point the government got super Tucanos, and to help the efforts of the military. Now, you have monitored the space. What technologies would you think, if the government brings into the country, it would actually improve greatly this counterinsurgency effort?
Yeah, I'm laughing because this is an area I really love too much, because I've always advocated that, you need to change your mindset completely when you are fighting asymmetry. There's a twist. And for the past years that we've been fighting asymmetry, whether in Niger Delta or in the Northeast, we are fighting that war with the same mindset of conventional warfare. With asymmetry, it's a completely different ballgame. You just have to, become born again. You have to change, So when you talk about technology, of course, for you to fight people that are not organized, you need technology to do that, because that is an area that the federal government have the superior angle to, attack that insurgency. Yeah, they cannot have what the federal government might can have. So they should have focused on that area. And when I was in Defense Secretaries, I advised that we should approach this asymmetry two ways: intelligence and the Air Force. The Army, the Navy can support, the police can support. But it is an air war, because once you can saturate your airspace and have the command of your airspace, then those people running around the bush, they cannot, they can't function if you have your airspace, covered. The same thing in Ukraine. The Russians failed because they could not have the command and control of the airspace. They tried, but they failed. You understand? So here, I advise that it's an air war, with the support of intelligence. So whenever you're talking about technology, it's about intelligence gathering. But there'll be no time for me to really go into details, because it's competent. You have to break them into cyber warfare, for example. Then you have to look at the aspect of electronic intelligence. It's different from cyber warfare. Okay, that one is the cyber aspect, is to look at the finances and monitor, what anybody is doing on the cyberspace.
That may be fueling the insurgency.
Yes, if you transfer money, you can follow the money. If you know that is cyber warfare. Then the other aspect is the electronic intelligence, which is more of operational, tactical. In other words, signal intelligence, you have to develop it very well. Electronic intelligence, you have to develop it very well. And for this purpose, when you talk about technology, if the government has spent 50% of the money they allocated for this war, 50% on geospatial intelligence, we could have solved this problem in 6 months.
Geospatial?
Yes, because you're talking about technology. It's the domain of geospatial intelligence, where you can command everything that is in Nigeria. You can look at where the next operation is going to happen, and you can also look at the support base of the terrorists. You can look at them real time and pinpoint with accuracy where they are. Sitting down in a place like this, your studio, I can watch them live. So technology is it.
Okay.
And we should just focus on technology. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, we arrived at a destination point from an expert who say that we can't run away from investing in technology if you really want to get around to this challenge of insecurity that we are facing. Commander Kunle Olaomi, retired. Well, thank you very much again for having time to come to the program this morning. Thank you so much.
I'm at home. It's always a pleasure to be here.
We take this break. We'll be right back.
Bazato monkey pox ye no beto singo no do to clark beto po kan ipo yesi gan beto beto eko do kavi so kan ingo oni anado yin odo beto ko be won abi zon lowe agbaza hunmi awu agbaza vive sise agbaza po alopa o metan kavi o vazan no lana me ko be won abi zon lo no kro lo ganji po adipo sinpo mono le do meto eno tin to wiwe jiwe poponu dike mi ni no po to do alote na vuvu pe won abi sise agbaza monkey pox ton ido to ho ni do awo ye ton agbaza lilo eyin adokun.
Gender and sexual-based violence is an issue that children and women have been subjected to for far too long. Many of our women and girls have been exposed to violence including rape, molestation, and murder. We have seen and we have heard and we have noted we cannot and should not remain silent. The numbers are staggering. 1 in 3 women in Nigeria are exposed to sexual assault. We are talking about our daughters, our sisters, our wives, and our mothers. As chairperson of the recently inaugurated Violence Against Persons Prohibition Management Committee in Ogun State, we are working with all stakeholders, including you, to combat sexual and gender-based violence in our beloved Ogun State by helping survivors, indicting offenders, educating the public, and involving men in national conversation on violence against children and women. Our boys and men should be protectors, not perpetrators. Let us all lend our voices to say enough is enough. Everyone has a role to play. So let us take a stand together to end sexual and gender-based violence. Your voice can help save a life. Don't be quiet. My name is Bamidele Abiodun, First Lady of Ogun State. Please join me and let's fight this together.
Yes, you're welcome back. This time around, we are focusing on the environment. Don't forget that a whole lot of talks about the environment and environmental degradation, causes, effects, and of course, how can Nigeria, look better when it comes to taking care of the environment and of course making plans for here and there. Anyway, don't let me go too much into that because we have an expert in the house. We have a renowned international environmental consultant with over 40 years experience in environmental management across the globe. Let me welcome to the studio Engineer Tony Ojeshina, and we are looking at towards a safer and healthier environment. Engineer Tony Ojeshina, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Now, according to statistics, as far back as 2018, there are environmental health risks and challenges that that kill more than 12.6 million people on a yearly basis. Yes. I don't know whether that has changed now as the years rolled by. But let us know, what are these environmental health risks?
Okay, thank you very much. It has not changed. First of all, to start to, in fact, it has gotten worse. Now, in Nigeria, and of course in Ogun State too, I'm going to highlight the environmental problems in order of level of severity. The first problem we have is water contamination. This leads to a lot of waterborne diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, and so on and so forth. Then we have waste management problems. Waste management really, because we are not doing it properly, is the number one cause of water contamination, which leads to a lot of the health problems that cause misery and death. So you have water contamination, both groundwater and surface water. You have waste management, because it's not properly managed, it's the number one cause of water contamination. Then you have industrial pollution, when our industries are doing all the wrong things and they're not mitigating against environmental problems that could have to do with lungs in terms of what they pump into the air, toxic and carcinogenic substances. And then you have flood and erosion. Flood and erosion comes out more pronounced now because of what is called global warming. Because of global warming, that means there's a hole in the ozone layer. This comes from industry. This is a global problem. Because of that hole in the ozone layer, there is an imbalance in the climatic condition. That's why you see sometimes our rain comes, the heat comes and becomes excessive. Now, the ozone layer is what shields the earth, okay, against what we call intense ultraviolet, which is over there, is very hot. So heat is dissipated into the earth through the ozone layer. But because of man's quest for development, industrialization globally had now emerged some things that we call ozone depletion substances coming from your industries. And those now have created a hole in the ozone layer. So it is not easy for the ozone layer now to cover and protect the earth from intense ultraviolet. And one of the outcomes of that too is what we call sea level rise, because that's what we call climate change now. Yeah. You've heard of climate change. Mm-hmm. And climate change simply means that what God has created, the ecosystem that God has given a balance to, through man's quest for development, okay, we have created an imbalance in that. So when it's supposed to be hot, it becomes extremely hot. When it rains, it pours beyond the time we are supposed to rain. So there's an ecosystem disturbance that comes from that ozone layer depletion. Of course, there has been international conventions. Nigeria is a signatory to Montreal Protocol and some other conventions that says all of us globally, although we cannot close that hole, it cannot be closed, but all of us globally must contribute into ensuring that we do not emit ozone depletion substances anymore. Of course, America, when Trump was there, did not follow it. The Republicans really don't like to follow it, but the Democrats believe in it and they want to follow it. So Nigeria is a signatory. So gas flaring that happens in the Niger Delta area is one of those major causes. And so Nigeria has done regulations where for every cubic feet of gas that you flare, you're paying a charge to government. In the past, what they were paying, the oil costs were paying, was very minimal. But from that Montreal Protocol, and when I was consulting for the Federal Ministry of Environment, we pushed that agenda in, that if you increase the value of the fine, okay, then these oil companies will start finding ways to convert that gas as opposed to flaring it, because it's supposed to bring income to the country. That's why you've heard about LNG, Chevron LNG, back and forth. So all of them, they know that now I can't pay cheap money anymore. What I can do now is to make sure that I find a way to bring in technology and resources and now harness this gas that I'm flaring for the greater good of their company and also for Nigeria.
That could be seen as a positive way of managing of waste management.
Absolutely.
Okay, in that area.
Yes.
Now let's come to what our people understand more, and we know that one of the problems we'll be having all over Nigeria, including Ogun State, yes, is the issue, because we are growing, is the issue of waste management.
Yes.
How far?
Well, let me just say this. Waste management, some of the errors that we made is that it is not a social issue. Waste management is a commercial issue. Everywhere in the world, people make money from waste. Waste is converted to wealth, and it's not difficult to do. There's several options. The most attractive, you can have what is called waste treatment, you can have waste minimization, but the most attractive is the one that I call resource reuse recycling. Okay. That means you can recycle those wastes so it becomes raw material again, so you are minimizing the production of other raw materials that could cause problem in the environment.
Are we doing so?
Yes, if you do that. In Ogun State, let me give you an example. At OOPL, okay, my company built and designed, and this is built, fabricated, designed by us, fabricated and installed by Nigerians, our technicians there. 3 things. One is waste recycling plant, plastics recycling plant. All your pure water sachets, all right? You know, part of the biggest problems that we have is the mass consumed pure water, and they just throw the sachets all over the place. There's a plant there that we built for President Obasanjo, where people, they collect all the pure water sachets. We clean it up through the process. We feed into what I call an extrusion process. It comes out molten, and then it's solidified, and it's cut in small chip pellets. So it has become raw material again, and is now sold. When I say waste to wealth, and it's now sold to people who want to use it again to produce more. Some of them even use it, add some color to it to make shoe soles. Okay, that is there. There is what we call waste to organic fertilizer. They're also there. And that is, you take your garbage, you take your food remnants, okay? Even you go to a place like marketplaces, collect the waste that they're generating, and you bring it at a site, you put it through what is called a denaturation. That means you use a biological process to break it down into what is called compost. Then that compost is what you now feed into the system that was built and designed by people. So at the end, you end up with organic fertilizer. As opposed to inorganic fertilizer, the TPKs are inorganic, the one that we normally use are inorganic, and they contain chemicals. But this one do not contain chemicals. Not only does it not contain chemicals, it also comes up with 1/3 better yield than the
Inorganic.
So you are not only cleaning up the environment, okay, you're also adding something, because when a farmer is farming and he uses it and his yield comes out 1/3 faster than, so he needs more. All right, those are the process. The third thing we have there is, these PET bottles.
Yeah,
it's all over the place. And so we have a system there where the PET bottles are crushed through the process and made into chips. It's even exported. South Africa likes to buy it. Everybody likes to, because they take those chips again to make bottles. All right? So it's cheaper for their production, as opposed to them going to a polyethylene plant to buy raw material. So you are recycling this thing for them and they are remolding it. So that is waste to wealth. You can go to sawdust areas, sawmill areas, and take sawdust and convert them into what we call briquettes, which can be used to build houses. There are some people that are doing that in Nigeria. But what we have to do as a society is, us personally, I remember when I was Commissioner for Environment in Ogun State, we did a lot of commercials, a lot of jingles. There has to be heightened awareness amongst the citizens. And we must do it so they can understand. We had a program we called NIMBY, not in my backyard. Okay?
I remember.
And that, you remember that? And NIMBY is to say, every time you take waste and you dump it indiscriminately, it's coming back to haunt you. And it's coming back to haunt me. Why? Because when you dispose of those garbage without sending it to where it's supposed to go to, without a collection process and a process where it is finally disposed of, once you do that, you have created a channel, because it becomes a vector. When rain falls, for instance, rain will mix with all the toxic elements in those garbage, all right? And it becomes what is called a leachate. That leachate now will now go to the groundwater, because water will find its level. Groundwater is what we think we are treating and we are drinking. You understand? Even if you have a borehole and you say it's a treated borehole, you have to know what you want to treat. And so when they bring you a treated borehole, it is to treat certain things like coliforms and so on and so forth. But when your garbage is there and water is coming in and is forming leachate, you don't know what to treat for. So what do we need to do? We need to educate our people to say, don't dump waste indiscriminately. Some of them, when there's rainy season, they'll take all the garbage and throw it in the gutter and say the water will take it away, right, when it rains. Now what happens then is that it is blocked. It blocks the drainage path. Water will always find its own level. So rather than, it's not going to send the water back, water will via out and start looking for the path of least resistance. All right? And a lot of times it finds a soil area that is not concreted area, because that's the least, and it starts going, and then as that happens, it opens up, and then you end up what is called gully, a place of erosion, gully. And gullies are devastating. People have died from gullies, even in Ogun State here. I remember that many years ago, it was raining, there was a gully there, a lady had a baby behind him, and was holding to another baby, and they walked on the gully because it was full. They didn't know. The small boy that he had with him lost the balance. That was another boy. It took 2 or 3 days before they could, in total area, because they could find that boy's dead body. Right? But this happens when we block the drainage, and if water finds its way and creates a gully somewhere, all right, human life, misery, and death could be results of it. Just like the other things we've talked about. Because when you consume water that is contaminated with toxic elements, you end up with, besides me talking about the diarrhea, that can kill cholera, you end up with a lot of other problems, internal organs, liver problems. And people die, but nobody knows the reason. But the statistics they gave has even gotten worse. So what do? Prevention, like they say,
It's better than
cure. So policies are already in place. Laws are in place. Fortunately, today in Ogun State, the Commissioner for Environment, who was just confirmed as Commissioner for Environment, is very experienced. Okay, he was MD of Loma in Lagos. There was a time that if you walk through Oshodi in Lagos, you have to hold your breath. I don't know whether you guys have been there.
Sure.
You know, he cleaned up that place, and Lagos started, getting cleaned up more and more. So the laws that exist today, which we enacted in 2003, because 2003 was when we formed the Ministry of Environment under Otumba Daniel, and I came to the office between I was the pioneer commissioner for environment there, and we worked with the House to amend the law and to come up with holistic things to counter all those things. And we set up a department of compliance enforcement and compliance monitoring. So there is need for us to educate the people to the implication of what we are doing, because it comes back to haunt us. It also affects the state's GDP, because when people now are sick from environmental related problems, all right, some of them could be working for government, they could be in the private sector, whatever it is, there's going to be loss of income.
Sure.
There will be loss of labor, all right. When there's loss of labor, there's loss of income, and then it has an effect directly on the GDP of the state. So of course the state will have to come up again with awareness enforcement programs, okay, to let people know, first of all, in terms of awareness, advocacy. We are begging you, this is going to haunt you, but we have laws, all right, and we are going to enforce those laws, because when we enforce those laws, then we mean business, not just for government, but for you, because government must protect the citizenry. So I'm optimistic, because at least in Ogun State, we have somebody there as commissioner now that I know his past track record and what he has done in Lagos.
Like a round hole in the round.
Exactly. So that is important. So, but the people must wake up to our responsibilities as citizens. A lot of people think, government will come and pick it. It's not everywhere in the world you make money. The setup that we put in there is to have the other PPP, public-private sector partnership. And now, how is that established? First, government sets up a system that makes that work. Then you bring the private sector in to be the ones that, first of all, will be the collectors of the waste from the doorsteps of people. All right? And then you bring another private sector in that will build the final disposal facility, put his money, invest his money in a final disposal facility. That disposal facility must be an engineered disposal facility, which will protect groundwater and surface water from the waste that you will take there. So that guy is going to have an investment put in there. The guy that is going to be picking it up, private sector, will also invest in vehicles. Okay, the right kinds of vehicles. You see some of them, compactors on the road, so that not just bin tipper and waste is flying all over the place. He will invest in that. All right. Now, how do they recover their investment? From door to door, there's what we call fee that each individual must pay, households. A fixed fee per household. That fixed fee per household is going to go into a government purse. The guy that is PSP, that is handling the movement, the transportation, is collection, transportation, final disposal. That guy gets paid from that source. When he takes the waste to the site, he pays what is called a tipping fee. This is just the system globally. The tipping fee is what the man that built the site, okay, collects to start trying to recover his own investment. And that is why, and that's how it works. But when you do that and you have that system properly in place, and then you make sure, government now makes sure that the PSP is monitored to ensure that he collects, all right? And it doesn't wait where you have waste bins at some places. It doesn't wait until it fills up and start spilling over and people start just dumping it. You know, you see that too. Okay. He's responsible. He must not wait. Before, when it's about to fill up, he should take another one there and then remove this. You understand? So that people now know that's another people. When they come out with their wastes, okay, if the thing is filled up, they're not going to take it back home. They will drop it, and you see that all over the place. So somebody must be monitoring him. Yes, go ahead.
You have talked about how to create awareness in managing waste.
Yes.
Now, how do we create awareness in making sure that people can also make wealth out of their waste? Because it's also one of those things
Yes,
that you talked about.
yes, and that is one of the things, obviously, that government should do. All right? The agency of government should be able to go out and have workshops, have seminars, bring people around and show them the way they can make money. Because if knowledge is power and information is knowledge, if they don't have the information, but you can do that through workshops, through seminars, you know, through sensitizations, talking to different groups, bringing market women around, the different trades, bringing them to workshop and explaining to them the processes and how they can benefit. Because once you are doing that, people will tune in. And once people tune in, I trust Nigerians. Once they know it's going to make money for them, they'll quickly find means to what do I do next. All right. But if they don't know, there's nothing you can, if they don't know, it will not change. So the paradigm has to shift. And that is to say, look, you guys can make money from this.
Okay, the topic was towards a safer and healthier environment. As we go, what's your passing shots?
My passing shots. One, you know, this environment was bequeathed to us by our fathers, great-grandfathers. And we're the custodians today. And so we are going to have to bequeath it to our children and great-grandchildren coming up. And we all have our responsibilities. Responsibilities as citizens of Nigeria and Ogun State to ensure that we do not contribute to this menace. And the responsibilities are very clear. We've spoken about them already. Okay. Responsibility from the private sector to say, okay, there's a business opportunity here. Come and look into it. When you look into this business opportunity, it's going to be beneficial to your force. Government will facilitate that. Okay. But the private sector has that responsibility to say, well, let me go in there. Okay. And then responsibility by government to ensure that the policies and the laws that have been put in place are genuinely and sincerely enforced. And to me, if we have that chain, and that chain is established properly, and it's not difficult, it's not rocket science, it's established properly, we will see a cleaner environment.
Well, I want to thank you very much. We thought we were going to talk about towards a safer and healthier environment, but after having a renowned international environmental consultant with over 40 years experience, we saw that it was even a safer, healthier, and wealthier environment.
Absolutely.
If we manage it well. Thank you very much, Engineer Tony Ojeshino, for coming on to the program. Of course, that's the program, that's the show for this Friday. Dominic Agbeya and Akin Makitunde will return again, God willing, Friday next week for our own version of Kneel Down on OGTV.
Ẹ kú dédé àsìkò yìí o, mo kí ẹ̀yin ará mi nílé lóko àti níbikíbi tẹ́ tí ń wò wá. Orúkọ tèmi ni arábìnrin Yétúndé Ògúnbọ́nà. A wá láti iléeṣẹ́ Now Investment Limited. Àmọ́ olùdarí iléeṣẹ́ Now Investment Limited wá sí orí ètò alàgbà ní Ọ̀sàgè Adémọ́lá. Ládẹjọ́ kí ẹ lè sọ nípa ohun tí ó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní iléeṣẹ́ yín àtàwọn products tẹ́ ṣe àti ibi tí company yín wà.
Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ orúkọ iléeṣẹ́ wa ní Now Investments Limited, aláṣẹ àti olùdarí rẹ̀ mi Níyì Adémọ́lá Ọ̀sàgè. Gbogbo tá à ń ṣe níléeṣẹ́ wa ní àwọn nǹkan tó dáa fún ara wa àti inú wa. Kí ló dáa fún inú wa? Oúnjẹ. Kí báwo lóúnjẹ ṣe máa dé inú wa? Nípa gbígbin àwọn èso tó dáa, ata, tòmátì, ẹ̀fọ́, pákí, iṣu. Báwo la ṣe lè gbìn tó jẹ́ pé àwọn nǹkan wọ̀nyí wọ́n máa so dáadáa fún wa? A ti gbé èyí jáde tipẹ́tipẹ́, èyí tó ń pè ní foster food. Ó dáa lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ fún gbogbo ohun ọ̀gbìn. Ìbáà jẹ́ ọ̀pẹ, ìbáà jẹ́ coconut, ìbáà jẹ́ ata, ìbáà jẹ́ tòmátì, ìbáà jẹ́ watermelon. Gbogbo ohun yòówù kẹ́ máa gbìn lóko, foster food dáa fún. Á sì mú àwọn èso wọ̀nyí so lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. Ẹ ṣàkíyèsí lásìkò tá a wà yẹn ní